Hello all students. As we discussed in the previous module, in this module we will be looking at a comparison of HTML4 and HTML5. And the best way to learn a comparison between two versions of the same technology is through the code. So in this module, we are going to look at how a code written in HTML4 can be rewritten in HTML5 with the introduction of new tags. I'm sure if you have attended my previous modules, you remember the tags, the new tags that I gave you. But just to give you a quick 2 minutes recap, let's do those tags one more time, because I'm sure that will really help you understand the code which I'm going to explain you in a couple of minutes. So students, we discussed the versions HTML4 and behind or previous, and HTML5. The main difference, how do you actually tell the browser that this code that I am writing is in HTML5? Normally we just open a notepad in case you're using Windows, or TextEdit if you're using Apple or Mac. But how do you tell the browser that now this is the code which I am going to write is in HTML5? Sometimes if you're reading online or when you have seen different books, you'll see a declaration on the top of the notepad or TextEdit which says doc type HTML. This line, once it is written on the top of your notepad, it's always recommended to write it on the top, gives a clue to the editor that we are writing a code in HTML5. Now this is the first striking important feature you need to remember. If you're coding in HTML5, make sure you have this declaration. Yes, in HTML4 and previous versions, you don't need this declaration. Okay, and I'm going to show you when I walk you through the code of the project. In the HTML4 and previous versions, we were dividing our web page using the div tag. Div stands for divide. We divided our page into headers and footers and gave a unique ID to them. This is how we did the code. Remember, I hope you remember how we did it. However, in the HTML5, instead of dividing the page, giving them the IDs, there's a simple way. They have introduced new tags or your web pages which are header, footer, aside and navigation. So this is a quick recap. We've already covered this, but just for your convenience, I'm revising this again. In terms of your web layout, so when you start making a website, in terms of your web layout, when you are talking about an HTML4 and previous version and HTML5, before you start making a website, you would like to first set a layout, in what place you want to place what control. So in case of HTML4, if let's say I divide my page into these different sections, and let's say the same way I'm doing in HTML5, and I divide it into this section, I will have a command or tag which is div ID as header on the top. But for HTML5, as we discussed, you will just need to write header. You will have another div ID for a menu. You will have another div ID for a content. However, for your HTML5, you can directly use tags article, which we've already discussed, section and the aside tag. For the HTML4, we use the concept div ID as footer. In HTML5, you can directly use the footer tag. So in the introduction of HTML5, where we discussed that they have really helped make code very clean and semantic, I hope the things are setting in your mind now, how they have actually taken off the worry from the programmer's mind and they have made the code much more simpler. Now what we are going to do is, I have already written a code. I'm going to explain you that code, but before I actually start explaining you that code, I would like to first ask you to visualize that particular output. So what exactly we are going to achieve. So hope you can see two browsers opened on the same tab to tab on my screen. Now the currently opened screen that I have, this is what I have created using HTML4. On this I have got a top header navigation. I've got a footer which is storing the information copyright 2015. I've got a left sidebar, I've got a main content, I've got a right sidebar. I've got a placeholder for site name where I can give the name of my company, or if you want, you can also give the logo of your company, any striking information you want to give. The concept is same, so using the same concept, I have created another web page, but this one which I'm going to open now has been created using HTML5. So you see the sections are pretty much similar, isn't it? We've got a site name, we've got the top navigations, we've got some UI list, as I hover over the about, and we've got a footer section. So this one is HTML4, this one is HTML5. How did I achieve it? So what I'm going to do is I've opened the code side by side to explain you how we have done this. Do not get worried when you look at this big code. We'll try to understand it one by one, line one by one. Okay, so very first thing, students, if you remember when I was explaining you about how do you tell the editor that you are using an HTML5 code, you're going to code in HTML5, you will be using a doc type HTML declaration. So this is the syntax of doc type HTML. If you write this code for the HTML5, compiler knows, the editor knows that you are using the HTML5. So this on the right hand side is HTML5, on the left we have HTML4. This declaration is very important. We've got the standard tags of HTML and head. There's no change from there, no change from the character set when you define. Title tag is absolutely same. The way you link your CSS file is absolutely the same. Do not get worried. In the very next module, when we'll be covering CSS, this line will give you more clearance, but for now, link is actually helping you to link a CSS file, a file which is storing how my fonts and how my colors and my borders, margins should be on the web page. This link is actually helping us link that file. We've got the head and the body tag in both. Now what you can see over here is on my HTML side, I have tried to divide my page into different IDs, isn't it? I've got an ID for a wrapper, I've got an ID for my headers, navigations and menus, isn't it? On the other hand, on the right hand side, what we have done, we have started using the tags. So you can see here, I'm using a direct tag called header. Within the header tag, I'm including a navigation and menu class. And what all information we had about the site name, home, about, all the information about the mission, FAQs, everything that had to go inside the header, I have included that within this header tag. So exactly the same thing we are doing here, but with a different semantic, different syntax. If we scroll down, for the left content that I had divided my page into left and right and top and bottom, if you remember. So on the HTML4 or before, what we do, we divide that into the left and we give it an ID left content. But HTML5 pretty much simple. All you need to do is just use the aside tag for the left sidebar. Okay. So what all we have looked at? We've looked at the header tag, we've looked at the aside tag. Now how about the main content? Where all the information is going to go. That main content that we have, we are using a tag called as the section tag. I hope it's making sense. We will be using a section tag, which is here. Now in the case of the section tag, all the content which is the main, I'm going to place between the starting and the ending. Similarly, we have got a right sidebar and we've got a footer. And on the HTML4 side also, we are using the same thing, however using the different div tags. So if I go back to the web portal that we have created, our page that we have created, you look at it's the same way the page has been divided, however using the different tags. So this brings us to the end of this module, where we have learned how we can create web pages by dividing it into different sections. If you want to use HTML4, we will be using div tags to divide it, give an ID to all the sections. However, if you want to use it using HTML5, because you now want to add videos and audios and write much more cleaner code, or maybe use features like geolocation, you will be using the tags like nav, header, footer, aside and section. I hope it's clear. So stay tuned for the next module, in which we will be covering an introduction of DHTML. Till then, goodbye.